No DQ Galaxy, we are live with the NoDQ.com recap of the 2022 Elimination Chamber Premium live event from Country Redacted, as my good friend Noah Foster might say. Thank you to everybody tuning in. I really appreciate your viewership and support. If you do enjoy this video, please consider subscribing if you haven't already over at youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ, and make sure to turn on the bell for updates as they become available. With that being said, let's get right into this recap. And I do ask, if you are going to send in super chats, it is very much appreciated, but please stick to the topic if you can as we go match by match. So, for instance, if you want to send a super chat about the men's elimination chamber, send it towards the end of the stream. All right. We had our kickoff show, and we had 8 matches announced for this pay-per-view. We had one of those 8 matches being moved to the kickoff show at the last minute. Going in, I thought this was going to be a 4-hour show with these 8 matches. And as it turns out, the show only went 3 hours. We had Rey Mysterio versus The Miz as the kickoff match. Dominic Mysterio was there on the outside of the ring. And as you would expect, Dominic was getting involved. Now, The Miz was perhaps provoking Dominic Mysterio, trash-talking him. At one point, The Miz took a swing at Dominic, but he missed. So Dominic decided to swing at The Miz and hit him when the referee wasn't looking. Mysterio rolled up Miz, but Miz was able to kick out of that. Match went back and forth for a while, and then Mysterio hit the 619. He went for the big splash, but Miz rolled to the outside of the ring. He grabbed the chair, and then Dominic grabbed the chair from The Miz. Now, while the referee was distracted with Rey Mysterio in the ring, Miz acted like Dominic hit him with the chair, kind of like the whole Eddie Guerrero playbook. Referee was telling Dominic to leave. Miz attempted to hit Mysterio with the skull-crushing finale. However, Mysterio was able to counter that with a roll-up, and Rey Mysterio got the 1-2-3 victory. After the match was over, we had Miz attacking Mysterio. Dominic made the save. Father and son beat up The Miz, hit him with double 619s, and then they both did the Eddie Guerrero frog splash to The Miz. Kickoff match was fine. Poor Miz, his pay-per-view, or excuse me, premium live event losing streak continues. He's 0 for 3 in 2022 on premium live events. And later in the show, The Miz cut this promo, and he said that he's going to have to make a phone call and get somebody to help him against the Mysterios. Now, of course, a lot of people speculating about that one. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that, but I'm not thinking it's Cody Rhodes. I know a lot of people are talking about that, but it's probably going to be Logan Paul. We'll see what happens, but stay tuned to NoDQ.com for more regarding that. Now, we move on to the main card, and we kicked off the main card in a big way. We had Roman Reigns versus Bill Goldberg for the Universal Championship. Yes, we started hot and heavy on Elimination Chamber's main card. Roman Reigns made his entrance first. He got on the mic and told the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to acknowledge him. We had Bill Goldberg show up, and the crowd was loving Goldberg. Say what you will about Bill Goldberg, but the fans in Saudi Arabia, they appreciate the guy. There was a big pop when the bell rang, and the two were milking the reactions from the fans. Reigns got the early upper hand, but then Goldberg out of nowhere hit a spear, went for the jackhammer, but Reigns was able to avoid it. Reigns hit a rock bottom. Goldberg kicked out of that. Reigns then hit a Superman punch, then went for the spear, but Goldberg countered with his own spear. And then Goldberg tried to hit the jackhammer again, but again, Roman Reigns avoided it. Reigns got the guillotine submission on. Goldberg tried everything possible to escape, but eventually he passed out. Roman Reigns picked up the win. Match was about 6 minutes long, and it was fine. It was totally fine under the circumstances of Roman Reigns going up against a 52, 53, whatever his age is. He's in his 50s. Is he 56? I'm not even sure what Goldberg's age is off the top of my head, but he's in his 50s. And all things considered, this match was totally fine, and it was the right finish. Roman Reigns won. Goldberg put on a good fight in what could end up being his final match, and he technically did not tap out. He passed out, so he gave it his all. The aging lion did everything he could, but he ultimately lost to the young lion. Connor Moore says 55. Well, thank you for that, Connor. We do have a few super chats here regarding the match. Mr. Anderson says Roman winning was a shocker to me. Just kidding. No surprises here, but I'm glad they did not shock us with a Goldberg victory. That would have been quite the spectacle on social media. About 85% of the people on the NoDQ.com poll thought that Roman Reigns would, in fact, retain the title. The This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat, says, Goldberg just had to hold on to the ropes to escape. Well, when you're in the guillotine and it's extremely painful, there's only so long you can hold out, you know? Hap Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hap. Says, Reigns' submission is the most protected finisher in years. I like it. I like it too, and to me, it's a better finisher than the spear. The spear is just overdone, in my opinion. Guillotine is something different. I'm glad that Reigns is using the submission move for his finisher. I'm all for it. I definitely agree with you on that one. Moving on here, we had the Women's Elimination Chamber match. The women had their full body outfits, although no t-shirts this time. They were able to wear form-fitting outfits, which I guess is a step in the right direction, I suppose. But hey, it's pretty cool. We got 3 women's matches on this show. Maybe one day they'll pull off an all-women's pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. Who knows? Anyways, Alexa Bliss was the last person to make a ring entrance, but it was actually Nikki A.S.H and Liv Morgan that started the match. Alexa was more or less looking the same as before she took her hiatus. Some people thought that maybe she would be back to the old goddess persona and have the old attire, but she very much looked like the character she's been doing for the better part of a year. Not much change in that regard. They even had a swing in one of the pods. So the whole Alexa Playhouse thing, I guess, is still going to be her gimmick for the time being. So anyways, Alexa was sitting in the pod. She had her swing, and Doudrop was the third entrant, went right after Nikki. Doudrop was dominating both Liv Morgan and Nikki, slamming them into the cage. Rhea Ripley then made her entrance. Nikki tried to escape from Rhea, but she got caught, and then Rhea Ripley was able to eliminate Nikki with the Riptide. Nikki first one out. No real surprise here. Then Alexa was the 5th entrant in the match. She got in some offense. And then Liv Morgan pinned Doudrop with a sunset flip powerbomb. Looked pretty cool. Nice win there for Liv. And then Bianca Belair, who won the gauntlet match to secure the final entrant. She was the last person to enter the match, and she had a little bit of a face-off with Rhea Ripley. And as that was going on, Alexa Bliss pinned Liv Morgan with the Twisted Bliss. Then Bianca Belair pinned Rhea Ripley with the KOD. Rhea takes another L to Bianca. Maybe we see the eventual heel turn from Rhea Ripley because Bianca just keeps getting the best of her in these big match situations. And it was down to Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss. Bianca powerbombed Alexa into the cage twice, went for a 450, but she missed. Bianca countered a DDT, hit the KOD, and picked up the victory to secure her spot at WrestleMania against the Raw Women's Champion. Good match here. It was a bit short, but honestly, I think it did not really need to go much longer. Jose thinks it would have gone longer if it was in the States. I thought the match length was fine. You know, it moved along at a nice pace. Didn't really need to be a super long match. I think we all pretty much thought Bianca would be winning anyways, so no need to drag it out more than necessary. Darren says, did you notice the Britney Spears outfit? I would not have been able to tell you that was a Britney Spears outfit. Caitlin did mention it, although she might have gotten that from Twitter. I would have had no idea. Anyways, the This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, am shocked and happy for Bianca. She needs the win at WrestleMania. I hope so too. I definitely would like to see Bianca Belair pick up the victory over Becky Lynch, get her revenge from SummerSlam. The story goes full circle and Bianca gets her revenge. I think that is something we need to see at WrestleMania. Very happy for her. She looked very happy to have gotten the victory there, like legitimate happy, knowing she's got the WrestleMania match. So good stuff here. We had the fireworks going off. I enjoyed it. Not much to complain about it. I mean, you could say maybe the match was a little short, but I really had no issue with it. And by the way, if you're enjoying the video, again, please consider giving it a like and subscribe over at youtube.com/AaronRift, no DQ. Next up, we had another women's match. We went from 0 women's matches in Saudi Arabia a few years ago. Now we get 3 on one show. Ronda Rousey and Naomi versus Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. And the stipulation of the match was that Ronda had to wrestle with one arm tied behind her back, since Sonya Deville had an injured arm and had her arm in a sling. Ronda Rousey came to the ring wearing her Judo G attire. She had her black belt from the Olympics, no makeup, and I love the look and the no makeup thing. I mean, she definitely does not need makeup, and I thought she had a great look coming out there. And she did a great job in this match. I mean, hats off to Ronda. This was one of her better matches in WWE, period. Like, as good as anything in her first run. The whole one arm tied behind the back. I thought this was very clever, and it gave her a chance to do some impressive stuff with one hand tied behind her back. I thought this was really good. And Sonya Deville, right off the bat, revealed that she actually was not injured. It was all a setup. So that was good. Good heel tactic there by Sonya Deville. I liked it. TJS sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Tyler. Says, I want Rhea Ripley to hurt me. That outfit, dear Lord. Also good to see Goldberg putting over Roman Reigns on his way to AEW. Can't wait for Goldberg versus Orange. Yeah, I do not think that's happening. Highly unlikely in all likelihood. And I'm not so sure you would like Rhea Ripley hurting you. I think that would be very painful, although apparently pain is your thing, but that's TMI for me. Anyways, Charlotte was hesitant about getting in the ring with Ronda because Ronda was holding her own against Sonya Deville. Eventually, Charlotte took a cheap shot, which allowed her and Sonya to work over Ronda. They went after the arm, the good arm. And at one point, Charlotte even used the rope that was used to have Ronda's arm tied behind her to prevent Ronda from tagging to Naomi. I really liked this. Like, I thought they did some creative stuff with this whole one arm tied behind the back thing. So this was definitely something that was better than I was expecting going in. Naomi got the hot tag. She cleaned house. Ronda tagged back in and then hit Sonya Deville with the Piper's Pit. And then with one arm, got the armbar submission on Sonya, and Sonya tapped out. So 2 thumbs up for this match. I really had no issues with it whatsoever. Even though it was predictable, I thought it was entertaining. And this was some of Ronda's best work in WWE. Like, it's almost got me looking forward to Ronda versus Charlotte now that they did such a good job with this. The This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, I hope one day Sonya will be women's champion. Never say never. I mean, she just started wrestling again. We'll have to see how things progress with her character over the next couple of years. But going back to 2020, before she took her leave of absence, I thought she was well on her way. And she still might get there. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, she always puts on really good performances. She dresses very well, so she certainly can go out in mainstream appearances, interviews, and whatnot, and look the part. I mean, she's a total pro. Next up, we had Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss. So initially, I was not invested in this match at all. Did not care about it. Falls count anywhere match. Happy Corbin was out there, and as you would expect, he can legally interfere, so that's what he did. He kept getting involved during the match, 2-on-1, right when it started. McIntyre had brought Angela to the ring, but McIntyre was trying to not pull any shenanigans. He put the sword away, but then Corbin started interfering. They were fighting on the staging area. Corbin kept getting involved, used a chair on McIntyre. McIntyre would make these comebacks, and Corbin would keep getting involved. At one point, Madcap Moss, it was like a reverse Alabama slam. Madcap Moss got dropped pretty much right on his head. It looked brutal, or his neck, I should say. The replay, it looked worse than the actual live shot of it. It was brutal, but I think he's okay. Hopefully he's okay. He did finish the match. He appeared to be fine, but you never know for sure with these kind of things. Hopefully there's no damage long term. Matt sent in a $2 super chat, says, concussion protocol for Lashley but not Moss, LOL. Yeah, that we'll get to that later. We're jumping ahead a little bit, but yeah, I'll say this. What happened to Moss here looked more brutal than what took Lashley out of the WWE title match. But again, we'll talk about Lashley here in just a few moments. So McIntyre finally had enough of Corbin's shenanigans. And McIntyre grabbed his sword. He swung the sword, attempting to murder Happy Corbin, but he missed. Corbin, though, was scared out of his mind. I mean, who can blame him if somebody's trying to decapitate you with a sword? Naturally, you're going to run away. And McIntyre held on to his sword while hitting the Claymore to Madcap Moss and made the cover with his foot, holding the sword to make sure that Corbin did not interfere. So in a way, I really liked how the sword played into this as a way to have McIntyre win the match despite the interference. In a funny way, it worked. And the match ended up being pretty entertaining, I must say, despite the fact that I really did not care about it going in, and I felt like McIntyre winning was very predictable. But yeah, good stuff, and I just hope that Madcap Moss is okay, because that really looked brutal. Hab Connell with a $2 super chat says he kept holding his neck so he may legit be hurt. Well, thank you for that, Hab. And yeah, you never know. I mean, he could be walking around being okay, but I'm sure they're gonna run some tests and make sure. You just don't know for sure. You would rather be safe than sorry. You know, it could just be adrenaline playing a factor in him being able to finish the match. All right, and now we move on to our next match, which was for the Raw Women's Championship. Becky Lynch versus Lita. Lita attempting to have one last hurrah, one last run. Lita held her own against Becky Lynch. It was not one-sided. She countered an early attempt at to disarm her, slapped Becky, and almost got the twist of fate on, but Becky escaped. A match went back and forth here for a bit, and Lita got hit with a manhandle slam, was able to get her foot on the rope to not be pinned. And then Becky, the cocky heel, went for the moonsault. She missed. Lita then hit a twist of fate, went for her own moonsault, but Becky kicked out of that. And then Becky got back up, hit the manhandle slam right in the center of the ring, and retained the title. Match was good. No issues with it, really. It was solid. I mean, considering Lita hasn't wrestled much over the past 15 years, I thought this was very respectable. A very strong performance from her. And then afterwards, Lita got a standing ovation from the fans, which was very cool. WWE played her music. I don't know where Lita goes from here. I thought it was fine. I thought she held her own, and I would be totally cool with Lita doing more matches every now and then. How about the women's tag team titles? What about Trish and Lita teaming up and winning the tag team titles from Carmella and Zelina, and maybe actually try to build a women's tag division? You could always bring back the Bellas, do Trish and Lita versus the Bellas, and you can build up some other teams to face Trish and Lita and try to make something out of the women's tag division. I think that's something you could do with Trish and Lita. You could use them to get people to actually care about the women's tag team division. Just saying. And you can have Lita and Trish with one more run together as a tag team. I'd be all for it. Walter Cruz sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, glad Becky won with no shenanigans. Nice match. Well, she did try to cheat at one point, but that did not work out too well for her. And as Matt says here, completely forgot that they were tag team champions. Yep, as did I. I have to remind myself every now and then there are still women's tag team champions. All right, so next up, we were supposed to have the Viking Raiders versus the Usos. The Usos, of course, being the SmackDown tag team champions. But as the Vikings were making their way to the ring, they got jumped by the Usos. Usos beat them up. Usos did a double suplex. They suplexed Ivar onto Eric, and that took them out of the match. The Viking Raiders were incapacitated from that. Madcap Moss gets dumped on his head. He finishes the match, but the Viking Raiders get taken out just like that. I mean, way to make the Viking Raiders look like complete goofs, but clearly WWE was running short on time. Why did you book 8 matches if you were so concerned about time and only going 3 hours? Like, why did they book 8 matches to begin with? Like, I thought that was excessive with 2 chamber matches, because the chamber matches tend to be quite lengthy. Well, the women's wasn't super lengthy, but typically the chamber matches can go 30 minutes each. So I was surprised when they had 8 matches, and yeah, they ended up completely getting rid of this match, and they moved one of the matches to the pre-show. Hab Connor with a $2 super chat says, I forgot the women's tag team titles exist. Who is it? Zelina Vega and Carmella. They are the tag team champions, and yeah, they haven't really done much as the champs. All right. So now we move on to the main event of the evening, the men's Elimination Chamber match. Brock Lesnar came out last because, well, clearly he's the star of the show, at least the star of this match, and everybody else is kind of just there, you know. Seth Rollins and Austin Theory started the match. And it was kind of funny with Austin Theory. He was going around taking selfies with everybody. Matt Riddle was cool with it. Lashley was not amused. AJ Styles was slightly less amused. And then we had, well, maybe slightly more amused. AJ Styles seemed like maybe he was going along with it, but Bobby Lashley was like, you can go F yourself, basically. Let's see here. Mr. Anderson sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you for that, Mr. Anderson. Says, almost 2 murders in one day at WWE Elimination Chamber. Drew McIntyre with the sword to Corbin and Brock Lesnar F5 to Theory off the Elimination Chamber pod. And we'll get to that here in a few minutes with Lesnar and Austin Theory. All right, so early on in this match, Seth Rollins buckle bombed Austin Theory through Lashley's pod. Lashley, because of Austin Theory connecting with him, I guess he hurt his head or something. I'm not really sure what happened exactly, but the officials were checking on Bobby Lashley and they carried him away. I thought like maybe they were trying to act like his leg got hurt or something, like crushed. But then Michael Cole on commentary said because of concussion protocol, Lashley was out of the match and there was going to be a new WWE champion. And I was thinking, you know what, that spot, it was kind of a cool spot in theory, no pun intended, but Lashley didn't look like he got hurt that badly. And I kind of did not buy that took him out of the match completely. He's the WWE champion. He's the almighty. If anything, I think it made him look kind of weak, quite frankly. But yeah, the idea was for Lashley to lose the WWE title without losing to Brock Lesnar. But in a way, I think he looked worse than if he had just gotten beaten by Brock Lesnar here, honestly. Just the way it played out, like I don't think it looked that devastating to Bobby Lashley for him to be taken out from that one spot. Anyways, Lashley was out of the match, and we were guaranteed a new WWE champion. AJ Styles and Riddle came into the match. Riddle was getting some offense, paying tribute to Randy Orton, doing draping DDTs to AJ Styles and Seth Rollins. And then Riddle was waiting for Brock Lesnar because Brock Lesnar was the only one left in the pod. However, it was Bobby Lashley that was supposed to come out. Riddle got distracted, and then Lesnar decided to just enter the match anyways. Lesnar got into the match, and he basically made everybody look like Barry Horowitz. F5 pinned Seth Rollins. F5 pinned Matt Riddle. And then he pinned AJ Styles with an F5, you know. Pinned 3 guys like they were Barry Horowitz. And then Austin Theory was the only guy left. And Austin Theory was absolutely terrified. He was like, I don't even want the WWE title. He was trying to get his ass out of there. He tried to climb his way out of the chamber. Literally, he was climbing up the chamber wall, trying to crawl through the top of the chain link fenced opening at the top. But Lesnar caught him, and they were right at the top of the pod. And that's when Brock Lesnar F5'd Austin Theory off the top of the pod, pretty much murdering the guy. So yeah, that was crazy. Theory did get a little bit of offense earlier. He hit a low blow and got a few moves on Lesnar, but that ultimately just pissed off Lesnar even more. So yeah, F5 off the top of the pod. Theory was dead, and Lesnar got him in the ring and pinned him 1, 2, 3. Brock Lesnar, officially your new WWE champion. And they quickly put up the graphic. They had it ready to go as if this stuff was predetermined. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, champion versus champion at WrestleMania. Not really surprised whatsoever. I fully expected Brock Lesnar to win this once they added him to the chamber match. And, you know, they tried to find a way out for Bobby Lashley so he would not be slaughtered like the others. But in a way, Lashley came off looking pretty bad, all things considered. So yeah, Brock Lesnar, clearly the star of the show, and Roman Reigns, the other star of the show. That is your main event for WrestleMania. It's pretty clear. So the match was just more or less what you would expect from these guys and what you would expect to happen here with Brock Lesnar in the chamber match. I mean, can we even say we're surprised that Lesnar destroyed everybody and made them look like a bunch of geeks? I mean, are we really surprised at this point? And to answer Tyler, I don't know if it's winner take all or not, but I would like to see the titles merged. I've been saying this for the longest time. I don't necessarily want the brand extension to end, but I'd be cool with one champion going back on both shows. I would like to see that. Just my opinion. Let's get to some of the super chats. Hamp Connell with a $5 super chat says, I was hoping Adam Pearce would come out and say, since Lashley can't continue, there is a replacement. Cue Cody Rhodes' music. I definitely think some people were speculating on that, but I was thinking not. You know, they're focused on their story for WrestleMania, and that's Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, the main event for WrestleMania. Did not expect to see Cody on this show, but I suppose we'll see Cody pretty soon in WWE. It's just a matter of time now, most likely. And Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. Says, I legit thought Cody's music was going to hit and he was going to be added to the chamber. I don't know why else they did this. He could still look strong losing. Well, the thing is, if Cody showed up, that really would not make sense. Did Cody fly all the way to Saudi Arabia hoping that somebody would get taken out of the Elimination Chamber match? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was somebody who was supposed to be there and they enter as a substitute, that would make sense. But yeah, Cody just flew all the way to Saudi Arabia and somebody just happened to be taken out of the chamber match. Just wouldn't really make much sense to me from a logical standpoint. And Mr. Anderson with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Says, I'm afraid we are going to get another triple threat match at WrestleMania this year. Title versus title, Brock versus Bobby Lashley versus Reigns. You never know, but I'm thinking not. I'm thinking they're going to stick with the one-on-one match to blow off this Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns feud once and for all. But the question is, will Brock Lesnar end Roman Reigns' historic run as champion? I hope not, but Brock Lesnar is currently being advertised for the WrestleMania Backlash pay-per-view. Yes, they're bringing that name back. He's advertised for that show coming up in May. Makes me think that there's a chance Brock Lesnar could end up as a double champion. Now, This Guy Experience sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, this is the absolute worst chamber match finish of all time. Is Bobby cursed? First Extreme Chamber, now this. Book this match. Why book this match in the first place? Well, some people are going to argue, why did they even do the title change if they were just going to put it on Brock Lesnar? But apparently the idea at first was they were not going to do champion versus champion at WrestleMania. But I guess they decided that match needs to be as big as possible, so they decided to go with it. Hamp Kano with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. I appreciate it. Says, Kurt Angle back in the day would have totally took that F5 bump full on. Yeah, I mean, it definitely would have looked better if Lashley was either in the right position or sold it better. But yeah, the whole thing just did not look like it really did much damage to Bobby Lashley. That's the big problem with it. Like I said, the idea on paper sounded better than the actual execution of it, as far as I'm concerned. The game is on 100, sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, I got all my picks right. Lashley getting concussion from Rollins will get Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns is getting both belts at the end. WrestleMania spoiler. Well, I hope you're right about Roman Reigns being the champ at the end. And yeah, you might be right about Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins. Maybe we get AJ Styles versus Edge, which is something that people have been talking about for WrestleMania. And ZOMG Ruler sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you. Says, at this rate, Lesnar could beat Flair and Cena's reigns. How crazy would that be if Brock Lesnar, of all people, ended up breaking Ric Flair and John Cena's record? That would be something I don't think too many people would have predicted. Mr. Anderson sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I appreciate it. He says, I felt both of the chamber matches went by fast. Seemed like the pods open every 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes, LOL. Was it supposed to be 5 minutes? Like, I don't remember what the actual rule was for the chamber or if they changed it at some point in time. I feel like it was 5 minutes, but maybe not. I do not mind the faster matches, by the way. I'm not criticizing that. The main event, I think you just made everybody look weak at the expense of Brock Lesnar, but I wasn't really surprised by that. I just wonder, like I said earlier, why do 8 matches if you're only doing a 3-hour show with 2 chamber matches? Did not make sense to me going in. And then, of course, they scrap one of the matches completely and move the other to the kickoff. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Walter. I appreciate it. Says, Taker deserves the Hall of Fame all to himself. The whole hour, everyone talks about him. Then Kane, Mick Foley, and Shawn Michaels all induct him. That's respect. Walter, I am going to 100% agree with you on that. I say just do The Undertaker for the Hall of Fame this year. Since you only have a short time, 1 hour and 30 minutes, 90 minutes, just make the whole thing about The Undertaker. Like, we've never seen that before. Andre was the first inductee, but that was before they started doing ceremonies. We've never had a ceremony where it was just one person. And I think that would be really cool for The Undertaker to get the whole night to himself. And you can have Kane do a speech, Foley do a speech, Michaels do a speech. I think that would be fantastic. I am totally into that idea. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. I think they said more announcements are coming, so it doesn't sound like they're going to do it. But hey, you know how this goes. They could always change plans last minute. Hamp Kano with the $2 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. Says, I was talking about the F5 off the chamber bump. Oh, I totally forgot what the other comment was, so I'm not sure what that was a reference to. But anyways, yeah, that F5 was crazy off the top of the pod. Matt sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Matt. Says, possible Lesnar wrestles both nights of WrestleMania. I've seen a couple of comments about this, and I suppose that's a possibility, but now they're hyping up champion versus champion. That's the marquee now. I don't think they're going to change that. And plus, if they do Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley on night 1, do we really think that Bobby Lashley is going to win and then it's just a one title match on night 2 after you advertise champion versus champion? I don't think that's what's going to happen. Hamp Kano with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. Says, do you see Stinky Ass? Hey, come on now. against Rhea Ripley or Molly Holly at WrestleMania. I'm not sure if we're going to see either, quite frankly. Like, it doesn't feel like that's a big enough marquee match to get on the card. When you think about all the other matches that are already rumored for WrestleMania, and they're probably not going to do longer than 4 hours per night. So we're looking maybe 8 matches for each night of WrestleMania, roughly. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I think it's more likely they end up in some kind of multi-women's match or battle royal. You know, maybe they do the China Memorial Battle Royal. They could do that on one night, do the Andre Battle Royal on the other night. But I suspect we're going to get one of those multi-person matches, probably for both the men and the women. So a bunch of them will be on the show, probably the kickoff or whatever, just so they could say they had a match at WrestleMania. But I'm not really expecting them. I mean, it's just not a big enough feud, I think, to justify time on the actual WrestleMania card in a one-on-one match. All right, so as far as my overall thoughts on the show, I mean, I liked it. It flew by pretty quickly, 3-hour show. I give it a thumbs up. I would say it's a recommend. It's worth watching. It was predictable, but I think for the most part, it was very entertaining. Main event, I think, was a bit of a miss, even though I expected Brock Lesnar to win and, you know, set up the WrestleMania main event. I probably liked the women's chamber match more. The Austin Theory spot was pretty cool, though, at the end. And Roman Reigns Goldberg, that was fine. It was solid. Very solid show. I'd probably, if I was doing the letter grade, I'd give it a solid B. Good show. It was fun. It wasn't a bad show by any means. Wasn't the greatest show I've ever seen by any means, but it was solid. Mr. Anderson with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Says, Elimination Chamber gets a B+. I recommend it. Yeah, it was a good show. And maybe I'm not as cranky because it's early in the day. You can see the sunlight in this video right now. I like that. I'm all for more of these live streams in the afternoon and these early pay-per-views. I know some people don't like it. You know, some people want to do other things, whether it's work or they got hobbies on a Saturday afternoon. But hell, I would be all for this in the future. Saturday afternoon pay-per-views. Bring it on, because I do not have the best times going on at midnight. It's difficult. It's a challenge. Like for those AEW ones especially, they go so long into the evening. I'm just ready for bed. And I guess I was spoiled for so many years because I lived on the West Coast until 2019. And I was used to doing recaps of shows at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock Pacific time. And it was nice. Moving to the East Coast, that was one of the harder adjustments, was having to do the live streams later. This Guy Experience sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, besides it being your job, what keeps you watching WWE? Well, the pay-per-views are good. I have no problem with the pay-per-views. Most of the time, they're good. Every now and then, there's a pay-per-view that has some bad booking, and usually the wrestling's very good. They got a great roster. They really do. Some of the best wrestlers in the world. The pay-per-views are usually very solid and easy to watch. It's the 3-hour Raws in particular that are really tough to watch, and sometimes SmackDown can be a chore to watch as well. But yeah, like I've told people, if it wasn't my job, I would probably watch the pay-per-views and maybe watch YouTube clips every now and then to keep updated on things. But I would definitely not be watching the 3-hour Raws, and I might not even watch the 2-hour SmackDowns. I'd probably just go to YouTube to watch the clips, and that's how I could keep up with it. Just, you know, more friendly to those that are looking to save some time and not invest too much in it. You know, you can basically get a gist of what's going on just watching the YouTube clips. And Mike Nixon, as far as The Miz, I did mention this earlier. I'm thinking it's going to be Logan Paul. I do not think it's going to be Cody Rhodes, and I'm hopeful it's not Cody Rhodes. Let's put it that way, because I think there's definitely a better way to bring him in than to team up with The Miz. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in tonight or this afternoon. See, I'm on autopilot. I think it's past midnight or almost 1 o'clock right now. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon. If you're on the Pacific time, then you got a lot of your afternoon to go. I appreciate your viewership and support. Please spread the word. Tell a friend about NoDQ.com. Stay tuned to NoDQ for backstage news fallout from the pay-per-view. And on that note, I will see you guys next time. And remember, say yes to NoDQ.com. Take care, everybody.